What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are here with some more PGA DFS picks and lineup advice for DraftKings and FanDuel. This time for the Valero Texas Open down at TPC San Antonio. Welcome. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy. I'm joined by Niromada, our PGA analyst at Occupy Fantasy. Niro, 1 week away from the Masters, but we have another event this week. How are you?
Good. Super Bowl's next week, so the anticipation meter is rising. Good contest this week. Good set of good event, but definitely have one eyeball on all things Augusta for next week.
And by the way, sneak preview, we have some extra content planned for you all next week. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel here on YouTube to get notified when that is released. Like you said, there's some massive, massive contests next week. 3 different millionaires, all bankroll sizes. And we're all about contest selection and bankroll management here. But there's some shots. There's some time to take some shots at $1 million contests. And in order to get into those, Nero, that there's a lot of satellites this week, all bankroll levels to help you get into those contests. So make sure you all take advantage of that.
Yeah, the PGA is not like NFL. There's not a millionaire maker every single week. We get four of them, and that's it. So when you have them coming up, and we'll have multiples of them actually next week at the Masters. So it's time to take advantage and take some big swings. So like definitely excited for all that next week.
Absolutely. But first, let's start with the Valero this week. What we're going to talk about in this video. First, we'll recap what happened last week at the Houston Open, what we got right, and maybe what we got wrong. Not a ton. Then we'll talk about the top plays in our Occupy model for this week. What is the data telling us who we should be playing in our DFS lineups? What are industry projections telling us, and who will be higher owned than maybe expected in our high stakes and small field GPPs? How are the betting markets shaping up through Tuesday afternoon? Which golfers are seeing their odds to win improve? And we'll close it out, of course, as always, as we have seemingly the entire season, with some weather related talk and possible wave advantages. So, Nero, last week, Minwoo Lee wins the Houston Open. He was a trifecta play. So shout out to those of you who played Minwoo from our trifecta plays list Wednesday evening. Top 6 plays in the model made the cut, and on a week where only 5 or 6% of lineups got 6 out of 6, that was extra important. And shout out to you for that excellent Mackenzie Hughes call in the plug.
That was a good one. So first of all, I think this is multiple times this year where we've had the top 10, 9 of the top 10, 13 of the top 15, the top six, whatever, from the model make the cut. And for people who aren't subscribers, there's plenty of stuff at the top of the model that is not just high ownership, high salary players. The Mackenzie Hughes is a good example, actually, of when you have a player who has a good course profile or good course history, excuse me, but doesn't fit the profile of the course. So last week, Bombers course, Mackenzie Hughes, not a bomber short game, more of a short game specialist. You get a lot of extra ownership leverage. And you can, I don't know where people will fall on the debate of course history. There are some people who are course history truthers. I tend to be more in that camp. Some people who don't think course history is very predictive at all. But we're always looking for reasons to play lower owned players. And Mackenzie Hughes was a great example of having reasons to play a lower owned player last week who was never going to be high owned because he just didn't fit the criteria of what generally speaking that course demands for people who play well.
And we get that question so often. It's like, what do you guys think of this golfer? And if they're low owned, and we always say, if you can find a reason to play a low owned golfer in a sport with this much volatility, then you should go for it. Now, you mentioned course history as we transition and talking about the top plays in our model this week. TPC San Antonio is annually one of the most predictive courses on tour when it comes to course history. I don't know why that might be the case. Maybe Nero, you can speak to some of that, but it will factor into our player selections this week.
Yeah, I believe it's annually in the top five. I think in the Data Golf, course history rankings. I think part of it could be it's a very defined profile for the course. And the second thing is you'll often hear the players talk about the greens being the purest and the best greens that they play all year. Now you hear players all the time in the run up to an event talking about how great condition the course is in, the greens are amazing, and whatever. But TPC San Antonio gets universal praise year after year for the purity of the greens and the green complexes. Uh, they're big and there is some slope elevation change to them, and then the purity of the greens. I think what that combined with the course demanding a very specific skill set tends to produce the same type of player who fits that examination uh, coming to the front year after year. So, but the bottom line is this is definitely a course where I overweight the course history in all of my judgments about who I'm playing and how often I'm playing them.
Now, you and I, and when I say I mean the model at Occupy Fantasy, we look at course history and we may be how we how we categorize that and calculate it a little bit differently. And the model certainly uses it more or less in certain weeks. And in these next 9 or 10 selections, these guys at the top of the model, you'll see some guys in here that have really, really positive course history here, which is pretty rare for the model to incorporate that heavily. So, Nero at the top of the model this week is one of the most expensive golfers in the field. We've talked about him seemingly every week he's played. It's Tommy Fleetwood.
Well, Tommy is like the prototypical fit for this course. This course is much more about accuracy, the distance. There's a lot of trouble in if you miss it wide on this golf course. Same place where Kevin Na had his infamous 16 when he got lost in the woods here a number of years ago. So and that is Tommy is the epitome of a ball striking robot. So he's number one in ball striking in this field. In my own personal rankings, I have him ranked first in this field, which says something considering how much I love Ludwig. So yeah, I no surprise to see him sitting at the top of the model.
Next, we have Keith Mitchell. Oh, really quickly, actually, I'm looking at the event logs here on DraftKings for Fleetwood, and however you look at your event logs. But 16th, 14th, 11th, 5th, 22nd. I mean, you might not win the biggest GPP with him, but it's hard to understate how great of a play he is to anchor your small field GPPs week in and week out. You get that kind of consistency and you hit on some of your low owned plays, Nero. I mean, that's what you need. When you don't have your high end guy perform up to expectations, there's nothing more frustrating. But Fleetwood has not been that guy.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go back. You have to go back into September of 2024 to find a finish of his outside the top 22 in any event that he's played in. And obviously, he's not playing in low grade events. He's only playing in the highest grade events. And I haven't finished my write up yet, but I would not be surprised if I recommend Tommy as an anchor for cash games, low risk and smaller GPP contests because his floor is just so high. And oh, by the way, on the course history note, he was seventh here in his only start last year. So
Yeah, I mean, just it's Tommy Fleetwood, guys. We're playing him basically every week. He tees it up. Next in the model is Keith Mitchell, who the model seemingly loves every single week. But Nero, he's got some positive course history to go with it.
he does. He's top 10 in the ball striking rankings, and he's usually, depending on the strength of the field, he's usually in the top 10 or the top 20. So most projection systems and models are going to like Keith, but your bonus this week is that he's top 15 for course history in this field and has some really good finishes here. He can get a little wild with the driver, so I have a small amount of trepidation because of that. But truthfully, when you look at his finishes here, 14th, 17th, 26th, he's clearly not that wild with the driver. So it's a place that he likes, and you're getting some okay reason for him. He's top 20th, top 20 with his 18th place finish last week at the Houston Open. So pretty good course plus current form combo.
Speaking of course history, no one gets a bigger bump than the guy who won last year, and Akshay Bhatia, and he's number 3 in the model.
Yeah, very good approach player, and also someone who is much more accuracy focused than he is distance focused. So, and he does that mostly with his irons, not with his driver. So, very very good play. Someone who's clearly on the rise with a very high career ceiling.
3 top 10s in his last 4 events. And Nero, he could have won this event by like 7 or 8 strokes had Denny McCarthy not gone off on the back nine last year. Goes to show how much better he was in the field in that event, in this same event last year.
Yeah, crazy. First of all, I thought McCarthy was going to birdie every hole on the back nine there as he tried to chase him down. But yeah, he just he really did blow away the field outside of that late charge from McCarthy. And I think you see that from guys with the really high career ceilings. Like people talk about like Rory's A game. When Rory's on his A game, how many people can actually compete with him? That's the thing is the guys with the really high career ceilings are the ones. One of the signs that you see is their winning margins are really big. And that's not really any different than any sport, right? Like college football, NFL. What do you see from those elite teams? Like they have a tendency to blow when they play really, really well, they just blow everyone else out of the water. And so, when I see that from a player, that's something I file away and just kind of write down and stick back in my notes somewhere. Keep an eye on this player. This player might have real high ceiling.
That's a really good way to look at it. Next, we have Hideki, who Nero seems pretty highly ranking in all the metrics we're looking for this week.
Yeah, first of all, great ball striker, great iron player. It's got some of the course history elements. Fits the course profile really well. So he seems to have kind of gotten past that stage where he was withdrawing every once in a while and then mixing in the random like horrible performances. I mean, he missed the cut at the players, but it's not like he played horrible. And I think we have plenty of evidence if you go back to that players video where everybody's got missed cuts at the players. So I think you've got a solid play with Hideki this week.
Next, we have two guys that you probably would not expect to be this highly ranking in the model. Well, maybe Nero, you would expect one of them. It's Chan Kim and Bud Cauley.
I would expect Bud Cauley because this is Bud Cauley's like exact type of course. Like he's not a distance guy, he's an approach guy, he's an accuracy. I call these type of courses like neat and tidy courses because the guys who are neat and tidy with their game tend to do well here, and that is Bud Cauley to a T. Chan Kim absolutely surprised me, so I had to do a little digging there. But top five in approach. And he also surprisingly has top 10 course history here, which was I had to dig in on that one as well because I just couldn't quite figure out why he was ranking so highly. But I love that kind of stuff. So first of all, he ranks highly because he finished 14th here last year, and that was his only start that he's ever had at the event. So again, math says 1 for 1 in a 14th place finish. But I love these type of plays because they're usually the ones that are lower owned, and they're the ones that the model sees something in it that my subjective heavy focus doesn't see, and I love that. So I think Kim is would make a great like high risk contest type of play this week.
And not that you need any more reason to play Bud Cauley, similar to Thorbjornsen, which, by the way, I hope you played Michael Thorbjornsen last week after we talked about him on the show, and he performed pretty well.
I did actually. So yeah, it was nice to see him. It was nice to see him play well. And yeah, Bud Cauley is in my pantheon of golfing boyfriends for sure.
Rounding out the top 10 of the model, we have some studs here, and Maverick McNeely, Corey Connors, and Patrick Cantlay, all with various profiles. Obviously, some common threads among the three. And not that we need to tell people why to play a 10.2K golfer, a 10.1K golfer. And McNeely is, where's McNeely? McNeely is just 8,100 on DraftKings. Maybe that's a little more surprising, but these three guys, all great plays this week.
Yeah, McNeely is he's good scorer, decent ball. His ball striking's really improved. We'll say in the last 12 to 18 months. Where he's now almost like a certainly in this field he's a top 20 ball striker. Beautiful short game, which helps him on these green complexes. Connors and Cantlay would be a little more similar in their profile. Cantlay obviously has a better short game than Connors, and he's a little more well-rounded. But Connors just the ultimate ball striking robot, and no surprise that he has such great course history here because of the way that he plays. Just this course is just really fit so nicely for his game. And it shows. He's got 2 wins here and only one finish in how many starts? 6 starts, only one finish outside the top 25. And oh, by the way, that was a 35th place finish. So,
Yeah, we would certainly take that this week. So lots of high floor options seemingly to take advantage of this
yeah.
week in our lineups. Now, speaking of what ownership is going to come in, what projections are telling us, We talk about this segment every single week. What are industry projections telling us, and who will be higher owned than ownership? Projections indicate in high stakes GPPs and smaller contests. And as we say every week with the disclaimer, if you're playing, in the micro stakes, the $1, $2 contest, just play some of these guys because they're great plays. And in the sharper contest, sharper players will be playing these guys more heavily. So use that to your advantage if you're playing against them. Nero, according to industry projections, who do we expect to be higher owned than they will be in the large field GPPs?
Yeah, I've got 5 on the list for DK. So that's Corey Connors, Denny McCarthy, Ben Griffin, Andrew Novak, and Alex Smalley. Um, you definitely have a profile there of that type of player. But again, this list is usually more about players who project well in popular projection systems, who are underpriced, we'll say, for what that projection says they're going to do. And then on FanDuel, we have quite a bit of crossover with a few additional new players. As I say every week with FanDuel, you're always going to have more guys at the top in this list on FanDuel because it's just simply because of their pricing structure. It's just simply easier to get more guys at the top into your lineups. So on the FanDuel list, we've got Corey Connors, Patrick Cantlay, Denny McCarthy, Maverick McNeely, Ben Griffin, and Alex Smalley, just like we had on DK, plus Harry Hall.
Which, by the way, I don't play Harry Hall very often, but he's got to be one of the best showdown plays every single week, every single round. Every time I don't play him, I see him -4, -6, -8, and that's just something that our showdown rankings obviously note too. But guys who can spike in a given, I know there's a classic discussion, but for showdown, you're looking for guys who can have those types of rounds. They can really win you showdown contests by themselves.
Yeah, he's a sneaky play. He's fallen off. I mean, he was in amazing form at the end of 2024 and early 2025, and he's mixed in a couple missed cuts here over the last 2 months. But definitely a sneaky play. He's long enough, and he's a good putter, which again, that's really what we'll say he's a pretty good putter. I'd probably put him top 15, top 20 in this field. And he can get, those are the type of guys that can get hot. And that's, certainly what you want. Showdown, it makes him a sneaky play in bigger contests for the classic, for the 4-day contest, because he's very rarely highly owned because he's not a well-known player.
Very true. Very true. All right, moving on. Let's talk about the market and what it's telling us. We are recording this Tuesday afternoon, so we don't have a full development of the market yet. Our trifecta plays will come in the Wednesday update in our daily plug at occupyfantasy.com, and the final list will be posted in our Discord server Wednesday evening. But Nero, no official trifecta plays yet, but I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys who have seen their odds to win improve at multiple sports books so far. I'll list the guys, and maybe you just tell me a couple fun facts about these guys, why they may be moving, or maybe 1 or 2 that interest you. So the 8 guys that are moving so far: Sam Burns, JT Poston, Sami Valimaki, Doug Gim, Hideki Matsuyama, Kurt Kitayama, Stephen Fisk, and Tommy Fleetwood. So those 8 guys, any common threads, anything that sticks out to you about this list?
I mean, a few things. There's obviously every time you see this list, by the way, there's always a few guys on there that you're like, huh? Like, why is he on this list? That doesn't make sense to me. Kitayama would be one of those, but he's actually, he's a pretty good iron player statistically. He's just a little wild off the tee. But this is also not necessarily like an easy golf course, and he does well on harder golf courses. So I suppose I shouldn't be too surprised. Valimaki obviously doesn't make as much sense, but he had the high finish last week, and again we talk all the time about looking for guys who played really well on Sunday from the week before, and nobody played better than Valimaki did. Poston's interesting because he doesn't have the ball striking stats this year, or maybe even in the last 6 months, or the course history stuff. But technically speaking, he's someone I would fit into that neat and tidy category that I talked about earlier. So I think that this is a course where he could, again, theoretically have some success. So maybe that's not too surprising. You've got Matsuyama and Fleetwood. Obviously, we already talked about them. And Sam Burns, fits that profile too. Again, someone who's a little more wild than I would like off the tee, but very good iron player, and obviously has a very good short game. So someone who, if they have a good week off the tee, could easily, outperform their expectations this week.
Very interesting. So again, the final list will be posted in the Daily Plug and in our Discord server on Wednesday. So make sure you're a subscriber of OccupyFantasy.com for this very predictable list. Remember, Minwoo Lee was on this list last week. Multiple winners have been on this list throughout 2025, so you don't want to miss that list on Wednesday when it is released. And finally, Nero, again, we've talked about so much weather and so many potential wave advantages. Some have worked out, some haven't. But looking ahead to the forecast this week, Thursday through Sunday, it looks like a lot of wind. Do you think there's anything we could take advantage of as of Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, my way, as I always say in these things, stay tuned. Make sure you check in the plug for and the Discord channel for the last updates that we'll put in about the wind and potential wave advantages. Right now, as I see it, it looks to be fairly windy on Friday. Not maybe not 100% consistent, but nothing necessarily that I see that would make me think, oh, this tea time wave is going to have a big advantage over another one. On Thursday, it does look like the Thursday morning starters are going to have gustier wind conditions than the Friday afternoon starters. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Potential of maybe some scattered showers on Thursday morning. Also, they don't look to be thunderstorms. So, but again, if one wave is gonna play in potential rain with gusty winds, and the other and the other wave isn't, that I would want to lean into that and play that Thursday afternoon group a little bit heavier. But this one, doesn't look crazy big off the jump, but something's there. So this is one to keep watching and keep paying attention to as you make your lineups all the way up until lock on Thursday morning.
It's so important. We talk about it every week, and again, if even if it doesn't materialize, it's worth the risk because if you can get a 1 to 2, sometimes 3 stroke advantage, it really increases your chance out of six compared to the field, and therefore increases your chance of a GPP win. So we've seen a couple of wave advantages this year so far, but we haven't seen those wave advantages capitalize on the weekend. If we get that together, then you're pretty much guaranteed to have a massive GPP week. So we'll see if that could be the case for this event at the Valero. So that'll do it for this video. Reminder, we have a bunch of Masters content coming next week. We want to get you as prepared as possible for those big contests. So make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube. It's free to do so. Just click that subscribe button below the video. Give us a thumbs up, free way to show support for the channel. And to help us out, drop a comment. And to help yourselves out, you can ask a question in the comments and we'll answer them before the slate locks Thursday morning. Reminder, Daily Plug, Occupy Model, Lineup Builder, Trifecta Plays, all that is available at OccupyFantasy.com for as little as $7 per week. So for Nero, I am Brian. Thank you everyone for listening. Appreciate you watching all the way till the end. And good luck and enjoy the Valero Texas Open.